The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of a nondescript grocery store on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Most shoppers were oblivious to the old Honda Civic parked in the far corner, its windows slightly cracked despite the December chill. Inside, Elena Martinez gently rocked her 3-month-old daughter Sophia, trying to soothe the infant's hungry cries while counting the few dollars left in her worn wallet. At 32, Elena had never imagined she would end up here. Just 6 months ago, she had a steady job as a dental assistant, a small but comfortable apartment, and plans for her baby's future. Then came the complications during her pregnancy, the extended unpaid leave, and finally, the eviction notice. Now her world had shrunk to this: a 15-year-old car filled with everything she owned, and a beautiful baby daughter who deserved so much better than this uncertain existence. "Just a little longer, mi corazón," she whispered, kissing Sophia's forehead. "Mama just needs to make this money last until Friday." Elena had been careful to rotate between different parking lots, grocery stores, 24-hour diners, occasionally Walmart, to avoid drawing attention. She kept the car meticulously clean, used public restrooms to wash herself and the baby, and had mastered the art of heating Sophia's formula using hot water from gas station bathrooms. Her pride had long since given way to pragmatism. Survival was all that mattered now. As Sophia's cries subsided into hiccuping whimpers, Elena noticed a motorcycle pulling into the space a few spots away. The rider, dressed in a worn leather jacket and jeans, removed his helmet to reveal shoulder-length dark hair shot through with silver. There was something vaguely familiar about him, but Elena was too exhausted to place where she might have seen him before. The man glanced in her direction as he secured his helmet, and Elena instinctively tensed. She'd learned to be wary of attention. Some people called security when they realized someone was living in their car. Others offered help that came with uncomfortable strings attached. But the man simply nodded politely before heading into the store, his gait relaxed yet purposeful. Elena breathed a sigh of relief. She needed to go in soon herself. The store's bathroom would be a good place to change Sophia and clean up a bit. She began gathering her supplies: a small bag with diapers, wipes, a change of clothes for the baby, and the travel-sized toiletries she had been rationing carefully. Inside the grocery store, Keanu Reeves moved through the aisles with the practiced anonymity of someone who had spent decades in the public eye. Despite his fame and fortune, he preferred the simplicity of running his own errands, finding a certain peace in these mundane tasks. Tonight, he was picking up ingredients for a quiet dinner at home, a rare evening without the demands of filming or training for his next project. As he placed a bunch of kale in his basket, his thoughts drifted to the woman and baby he had seen in the car. Something about their presence in the deserted corner of the parking lot had caught his attention. The way the woman had hunched protectively over her child, the windows cracked despite the cool evening, the visible exhaustion in her posture, it all suggested a story far more complex than a mother simply waiting in the car. Keanu had known his share of hardship and loss in life, experiences that had given him a heightened awareness of suffering in others. It was this empathy, perhaps, that now caused him to pause by the baby section, eyes lingering on the formula and diapers. On impulse, he added a small package of each to his basket. By the time he finished shopping, dusk had fallen completely, casting the parking lot in the harsh glow of security lights. As he walked toward his motorcycle, he noticed the woman from the car now standing beside the Honda, attempting to change her baby on the back seat. The infant was crying again, and the woman's movements betrayed a mixture of efficiency and desperation, someone trying to complete a difficult task as quickly as possible. Keanu slowed his pace, considering. He was acutely aware of how his approach might be perceived. A stranger in a dark parking lot was rarely a welcome sight, yet something compelled him forward, guided by an instinct that had rarely led him astray. "Excuse me," he said, stopping at a respectful distance. "I couldn't help but notice. It seems like you might be having a difficult time." Elena froze, one hand protectively over Sophia, while the other reached instinctively for the pepper spray in her pocket. The man stood several feet away, holding grocery bags in one hand and what looked like baby supplies in the other. His expression was gentle, his posture deliberately non-threatening. "I'm fine," she said automatically, the default response she'd learned to give to any inquiry about her situation. The man nodded, respecting her answer. "It's just that I picked up these." He held up the diapers and formula, and then realized I didn't actually need them. "I thought perhaps you might make use of them." Elena hesitated, pride warring with necessity. The formula was the exact brand she used for Sophia, an expensive one that consumed most of her remaining funds. "That's very kind," she said finally, "but I can't accept." "Please," the man interrupted gently. "Consider it karma. Someone helped me once, a long time ago, when I needed it most. I'm just passing it along." There was something about his voice, a genuine warmth that cut through Elena's defenses. She looked at him more carefully, trying to place why he seemed familiar. Do I know you from somewhere?" she asked. A slight smile crossed his face. "I have one of those faces. My name is Keanu." The name clicked into place, and Elena's eyes widened in recognition. "You're just someone who'd like to help if you'll let me," he said, cutting off her acknowledgement of his celebrity. "No obligations, no expectations." Elena looked down at Sophia, who had settled into an uneasy sleep, then back at the man, Keanu Reeves, though it seemed impossible, standing patiently in the dim light of the parking lot. In his eyes, she saw not pity, but a kind of understanding that suggested he knew what it meant to struggle. "Thank you," she said finally, accepting the bags. This helps more than you know." Keanu nodded, seemingly content with this small victory. He might have left then, his good deed done, but something made him hesitate. "It's getting cold tonight," he observed casually. "Do you have somewhere warm to stay?" The question was gentle, without judgment, yet Elena felt the familiar burn of shame rise in her cheeks. For a moment she considered lying, claiming a friend's house or a late-night drive home. But exhaustion and the unexpected kindness of this stranger broke through her last defenses. "We're managing," she said, gesturing vaguely to the car. "It's temporary." Keanu absorbed this information quietly, his expression unchanged. "I understand," he said, and somehow Elena believed that he truly did. "Would you allow me to get you a room for the night? Just somewhere warm and safe for you and your daughter to rest." Elena stiffened. This was the moment when kindness typically revealed its true nature, when the other shoe dropped and the real expectations emerged. She'd had similar offers before, from men whose eyes said more than their words. But Keanu continued, seeming to read her thoughts. "I can make the reservation in your name. You'd check in yourself. I wouldn't need to know the location. He paused, looking up at the darkening sky. "I just know what it means to feel alone, especially during the holidays." There was such sincere sadness in those words that Elena found herself nodding before she'd fully processed her decision. Thank you. That would be wonderful." Relief crossed Keanu's features. He pulled out his phone and, after a brief search, made a reservation at a nearby hotel. Nothing flashy, but clean and respectable. After confirming the details, he showed Elena the confirmation on his screen. "It's for a week," he explained. "Paid in advance. That should give you some breathing room to figure out next steps. The reservation is under your name. What should I tell them?" "Elena," she said softly. "Elena Martinez." He nodded, updating the information. "There's a continental breakfast included, and the room has a small kitchenette. Is there anything else you need tonight? Food? Supplies for the baby?" The question was so earnest, so devoid of the condescension that often accompanied charity, that Elena found herself answering honestly. "We're okay on diapers and clothes, but formula is expensive, and she swallowed hard, "I'm running low on funds until my assistance comes through." Without hesitation, Keanu reached for his wallet. Elena expected him to pull out a few $20 bills, a gesture of kindness from a wealthy celebrity. Instead, he extracted several $100 notes. "Please," he said, offering them to her. "Take this to help with your expenses. Use it for whatever you and your daughter need." Elena stared at the money, her vision blurring with tears. "I can't accept that much. It's too generous." "If not for yourself, then for her," Keanu said gently, nodding toward Sophia. "Everyone needs help sometimes. The world can be brutal, but it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes strangers can remind us of that." Something in his words resonated deeply with Elena. How many times in the past months had she wished for just one person to see her, not as a failure or a charity case, but as a human being caught in circumstances beyond her control? Here, in this unlikely encounter, that wish had materialized in the form of a famous actor whose genuine compassion seemed to transcend his celebrity. "I'll pay it forward," she promised, finally accepting the money. "When I'm back on my feet, I'll help someone else, just like you're helping us." Keanu smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his serious features. "That's all any of us can do. Pass along whatever kindness we can, whenever we can." He helped Elena load her few groceries into the car, careful to keep his movements predictable and non-threatening. As they prepared to part ways, Elena found herself wondering about this man. Not the movie star whose posters had once adorned her teenage bedroom walls, but the person who would stop in a darkened parking lot to help a stranger. "Can I ask you something?" she ventured. "Why did you stop? Most people just look away when they see someone like me." Keanu considered the question with the same thoughtfulness he had shown throughout their encounter. "Because looking away is easy," he said finally. "And I learned a long time ago that the easy path rarely leads anywhere worth going." With those words, he said goodbye, securing his grocery bag to his motorcycle. Before putting on his helmet, he handed her a folded piece of paper with a name and phone number. "A friend of mine runs a dental office," he explained. "They're looking for an assistant. If that's something you've done before, give her a call. No pressure, just an option." Elena stared at the paper in shock. "How did you?" Keanu smiled again, that same gentle expression. "You mentioned formula until your assistance comes through. Most assistance programs have work requirements. You're well-spoken and careful with your daughter, and your nails are filed short and immaculately clean despite your situation. Reminds me of my dental hygienist." The observation, so perceptive, so free of judgment, left Elena speechless. This man had truly seen her, not just her circumstances. "Thank you," she managed finally, "for everything." With a nod, Keanu put on his helmet and started his motorcycle. Before driving away, he called out, "Take care of yourself, Elena, and that little one too." Elena watched as he disappeared into the night traffic, still half convinced she had imagined the entire encounter. But the hotel confirmation on her phone, the money in her pocket, and the job reference in her hand were tangible proof that sometimes miracles wore leather jackets and arrived on motorcycles. The hotel room felt impossibly luxurious after weeks in the car. Elena stood under the hot shower until her skin turned pink, then wrapped herself in a clean towel and sat on the edge of the bed, watching Sophia sleep peacefully in the makeshift crib she'd created from a drawer padded with blankets. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to cry, not from despair, but from relief and a cautious, fragile hope. The next morning, she called the number Keanu had given her. The woman who answered, Dr. Sarah Chen, seemed to have been expecting her call. "Elena, yes," she said warmly. "I understand you have experience as a dental assistant. We're actually in a bit of a bind with our current assistant on maternity leave. When could you come in to talk?" By the end of the week, Elena had secured a job that included health benefits and a flexible schedule to accommodate Sophia's needs. Dr. Chen, a kind woman in her 40s, had even connected Elena with a subsidized daycare program 2 blocks from the office. "You came highly recommended," Dr. Chen explained when Elena expressed her gratitude. "Keanu doesn't make many personal referrals, but when he does, we take them seriously." "How do you know him?" Elena couldn't help asking. Dr. Chen smiled. "I treated his mother years ago. He never forgot the extra time I took with her when she was anxious about a procedure. That's the thing about him. He remembers kindness, and he returns it tenfold." With her first paycheck, Elena was able to secure a small studio apartment through a transitional housing program. It wasn't much, just a simple room with a kitchenette and bathroom, but it was clean, safe, and all hers. The day she moved in, she found a package outside her door with no return address. Inside was a beautiful wooden crib with a mobile of stars and clouds, a stack of children's books, and a card that read simply, "For new beginnings, K." Elena ran her fingers over the handwritten note, wondering if she would ever have the chance to thank him properly. She decided then that the best thanks would be to make good on her promise, to rebuild her life, and when she was stable, to help others as she had been helped. 3 years passed. Elena had worked her way up to office manager at Dr. Chen's practice. Sophia was thriving in preschool, a bright, curious child who loved books and had her mother's resilient spirit. They had moved to a comfortable two-bedroom apartment, and Elena had even started taking night classes toward a degree in healthcare administration. On a crisp autumn evening, Elena took Sophia to a park near their home. As they walked along the path, Sophia suddenly broke away, running toward a man sitting alone on a bench, reading. "Sophia!" Elena called, hurrying after her daughter. "I'm so sorry," she began, apologizing to the stranger. She gets excited about. The words died in her throat as the man looked up. Though his hair was shorter now and he wore glasses that hadn't been part of his look before, there was no mistaking those kind eyes. "Hello, Elena," Keanu said, a gentle smile spreading across his face. "And this must be Sophia." Elena stood frozen, a flood of emotions rendering her momentarily speechless. Sophia, uninhibited as only a 3-year-old could be, climbed onto the bench beside him. "Are you reading a story?" she asked, peering at his book. "I am," he replied, showing her the cover of The Little Prince. "It's about a boy who lives on a very small planet and goes on adventures." "I like adventures," Sophia declared confidently. "Sophia," Elena finally managed, finding her voice. "This is a friend. Someone who helped Mama and you when you were just a tiny baby." Keanu waved away the introduction. "I was just in the right place at the right time. You did all the hard work." "No," Elena said firmly, sitting down beside her daughter. "What you did, it wasn't just the money or the hotel room or even the job. You saw me as a person, not a problem. You'll never know what that meant." A shadow of emotion crossed Keanu's face, quickly replaced by his characteristic calm. "How are you doing now, both of you?" Elena told him about her job, her apartment, her classes. With each accomplishment she shared, his smile grew warmer, his eyes more approving, like a friend genuinely delighted by her success. "And what about you?" she asked finally. "What brings you to this park?" "I'm scouting locations for a project," he explained. "But honestly, I just like sitting in parks sometimes, watching families, reading, simple pleasures." Elena nodded, understanding. For a man whose life was so extraordinary, perhaps ordinary moments held special appeal. "I've been meaning to thank you," she said, reaching into her purse and pulling out an envelope. "This is what you gave me that night. I've been saving to pay it back." Keanu looked at the envelope but made no move to take it. "That wasn't a loan, Elena. It was a gift." "I know, but I promised to pay it forward, and I will. I volunteer at the women's shelter now, helping others who are where I was. But this," she placed the envelope in his hand, "this is for you." Accepting her need for closure, Keanu took the envelope. "Thank you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Sophia examine a ladybug crawling across the armrest of the bench. "You know," Keanu said finally, "there's a foundation I work with. They help single parents in crisis situations, housing, childcare, job placement. They're always looking for people who understand firsthand what that experience is like. Someone like you could make a real difference." Elena looked at him, realizing what he was offering, not charity, but opportunity, a chance to transform her experience into purpose. "I'd be interested in learning more," she said. Keanu pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "The director's name is Maria. Tell her we met at the park. No need to elaborate." Elena understood. He wasn't seeking recognition for his kindness. Quite the opposite. "Thank you," she said simply. Again. As the evening light began to fade, they said their goodbyes. Sophia, who had been unusually focused on the ladybug during their adult conversation, suddenly turned to Keanu. "Are you an angel?" she asked with the directness of a child. Keanu laughed, a genuine sound of surprise and delight. "No, definitely not an angel. Mama said an angel helped us when I was a baby." Sophia explained seriously, "And now you're here and Mama is happy." Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks, but Keanu didn't seem embarrassed by the child's assessment. "I think," he said carefully, kneeling to meet Sophia at eye level, "that your Mama is the real angel. She's taken care of you all by herself, and that's a very brave, very special thing to do." Sophia considered this, then nodded, accepting his perspective. "But you helped." "Sometimes helping is the easiest thing in the world," Keanu replied. "We just have to be willing to see when it's needed." As they parted ways, Alina watched him walk toward the park entrance. Just another man in a jacket and jeans, unrecognized by the other park-goers. She thought about the strange symmetry of their encounters, both at transitional moments in her life, both unexpected, both leaving her fundamentally changed. The envelope he had accepted from her contained not just the money he had given her that night in the parking lot, but a letter, one she had written and rewritten dozens of times over the years. In it, she had tried to explain how his act of kindness had restored her faith not just in others, but in herself. How his seeing her as worthy of help had reminded her that she was worthy of respect, of opportunity, of a second chance. What she hadn't written, what she couldn't find words adequate to express, was how his example had changed her understanding of what it meant to be truly wealthy. It wasn't about the money, though that had helped in her moment of crisis. It was about the abundance of spirit that allowed someone to give without expectation, to help without judgment, to connect without agenda. That night, as Alina tucked Sophia into bed, her daughter asked sleepily, "Will we see the nice man again?" "I don't know, sweetie," Alina answered honestly. "But I think he taught us something important that we'll always have with us." "What's that?" Sophia murmured, already drifting toward sleep. Elena smoothed her daughter's hair, thinking of the quiet dignity with which Keanu had offered help, the respect with which he had treated her even at her lowest moment, and the joy he had shown in her success without taking credit for his role in it. That when you have enough love, enough security, enough faith in yourself, the most valuable thing you can do is to share it with someone who needs it, she said. And that true kindness doesn't ask for applause. As Sophia's breathing deepened into sleep, Elena gazed around their cozy apartment, at the bookshelves filled with stories, the refrigerator covered with preschool artwork, the small desk where she studied in the evenings, and felt a profound gratitude for this life they had built together. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Keanu Reeves continued his quiet, largely undocumented acts of generosity, not because they would earn him headlines or enhance his reputation, but because, as he had once told Elena in a darkened parking lot, looking away was easy. And he had learned a long time ago that the easy path rarely led anywhere worth going.